Hi, I am Ankita. Today I will explain these all codes. First one is mapcontroller.cs. The code resides in the robot controller API namespace and depends on Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.MVC for MVC functionality and robot controller API persistence for data access. And map controller class. This class is responsible for handling HTTP requests related to maps. Constructor injection. The map controller class utilizes constructor injection to receive an instance of IMAP data access for data access operations. This controller is decorated with attributes API controller and root API or maps to define its root prefix. Individual methods further define their roots using HTTP verbs and additional root parameters. Get methods. Retrieve all maps. Retrieve maps where the number of columns equal the number of rows. Int id receives a map by its id. Check coordinate. Checks if a given coordinate x or y is within the boundaries of a map. Post, put and delete methods. Delete map deletes a map from the repository. Response handling. The methods returned appreciate HTTP responses. Bad request not found OK created at action no content based on the outcome of the operations. Data validation. Coordinates are checked for negativity and map existence is verified before performing operations. The second one is robot command controller.cs. Again, the code is in the robot controller API namespace. It imports necessary namespaces including these: route configuration API / robot commands, constructor injection is decorated an instance of iRobot command data access for data access operations. HTTP get methods retrieve all robot commands. Get move commands only, retrieve only move command. HTTP get method with parameter int id retrieves a command by its id. HTTP post method. This is the HTTP post method. Add robot command adds a new command to the repository after checking the duplicates. Put method updates an existing command after checking their duplicates. HTTP delete method deletes a command by its id. Response handling. The methods return appreciate HTTP responses. Bad request not found conflict created at route. No content based on the outcome of the operation. Data validation. Checks for null new command data and existing commands with the same name. Ensures that updates don't conflict with existing commands. This controller provides endpoints for operations and robot commands, including functionalities like retrieving all commands, retrieving move commands, only adding, updating and deleting command. The next one, extension methods.cs. This class defines an extension method map for NPG SQL data reader. This method is used to map data from a data reader to a specified entity object of type T. Mapping logic. It first checks if the entity object provided is null and throws an exception if so. It uses fast member to create a type assessor for the entity type, allowing fast access to its properties. Retrieves the property name of the entity. Iterates through the fields of the data reader. For each field, it attempts to find the corresponding property name in the entity. If a matching property name is found, it sets the property value from the data reader, handling DB null values appropriately. Error handling. It throws an argument null exception if the entity object provided is null. This extension method facilitates the mapping of data from a NPG SQL data reader to entity objects, allowing for easier and more efficient data retrieval and mapping in the context of PostgreSQL database operations. Now, IMapDataAccess.cs. It defines an interface named IMapDataAccess for data access operations related to map entities method. Get all maps, retrieve all maps from the data source, return a list of map objects. Updates an existing map in the data source, accepts a map object representing the update map. Insert map, insert a new map into the data source, accepts a map object representing the new map to be inserted. Deletes a map from the data source by its ID, accepts the ID of map to be deleted. Purpose: this interface serves as a contract defining the methods that classes responsible for data access related to maps must implement. It abstracts away the details of data access implementation, allowing different implementations to be used interchangeably as long as they adhere to the interface. Usage: classes implementing this interface will typically provide concurrent implementations of the method defined here to interact with a specified data source. iRepository.cs. It defines an interface and iRepository constants. It declares a private constant string, connection string containing the connection string for connecting to the database, and host, that is localhost, username, password, database that included in PostgreSQL. It takes a SQL command as input along with an optional array of NPG SQL parameter objects for SQL parameters. It returns a list of entities of type T. The method opens a connection to the database, executes the SQL command, and iterates over the result set. Inside the loop, it creates a new instance of type T, maps the data from the result set to the entity, and adds the new entity to the list of entities. Finally, it returns the list of entities. Type constraints. The method uses generic with a constraint where T class new to ensure that T is a reference type and has a parameterless constructor which allows for creating new instance of T within the method. Database interaction. The method uses NPG SQL for database interaction, including opening a connection, executing a command, and reading data from the result set. ORM mapping. It mentions a map to method that does not exist yet but suggests that it will handle the mapping of data from the set to the entity. Overall, this interface outlines a generic repository pattern for executing SQL queries against a PostgreSQL database and mapping the result set to entity objects. It provides a flexible, reusable way to interact with the database within the Robot Controller API. iRobot command data access. It defines an interface named iRobot command data access. These are all methods. This method retrieves a list of all robot commands. It returns a list of robot command object. Update robot command updates the commands. This method is used to update a robot command. It accepts an updated robot command object as a parameter. Insert robot command. This method is used to insert a new robot command into the data source. It accepts a new robot command object as a parameter. Delete robot command. This method is used to delete a robot command from the data source based on its ID. Purpose. This interface serves as a contract defining the methods that classes responsible for data access related to robot commands must implement. It abstracts away the details of data accessing implementations. Map.ato.cs. This code is in the robot command controller API persistence. The class map ATO implements the IMAP data access interface, indicating that it's provide data access operation for maps. Constants. It declares a private constant string, connection string, containing the connection string for connecting to the PostgreSQL database. Get all maps, retrieve all maps from the database. It opens a connection to the database, executes an SQL query to select all maps from the map table and iterates over the result set. It creates the map objects using data from the result set and adds them to a list. Update map and an existing map in the database. It opens a connection to the database and execute an SQL update command to update the map based on its ID. Insert a new map into the database. It opens a connection to the database and execute an SQL insert command to insert the new map into the map table. Similar to the update map method, it uses parameter to prevent SQL injection and sets their value based on the properties of the new map objects. Deletes a map from the database based on its ID. It opens a connection to the database and execute an SQL delete command to delete the map from the map table based on its ID. This class utilizes npg-SQL's connection, command, and reader classes from database interaction. Map repository.cs. The class this implements both the iRepository and IMAP data access interfaces. It declares a private constant string connection string containing the connection string for connecting to the PostgreSQL database. Fields. It defines a private field repo which allows accessing the repository method within the class. Get all maps. Retrieve all maps from the database. It executes an SQL query to select all maps from the map table and returns the result. Update map an existing map in the database. It prepares and executes SQL update command. Insert map. It prepares and executes an SQL insert command, again as same as that of delete command. Robot command ADO.cs. The class robot command ADO implements the robot command data access interface. It declares a private constant string containing the connection string for connecting to the PostgreSQL database. Get robot command all robot commands from the database. Update an existing robot command in the database. It prepares and executes an SQL update command. Same procedure for inserts a new robot command and deletes a robot command from the database based on its ID. Now we will move on robot command repository. The class robot command repository implement both the iRepository and iRobot command data access interfaces. Constants. It declares a private constant string. It defines a private field repo which allows accessing the repository method within the class. Get robot commands from the database using the iRepository interface and it execute an SQL query to select all robot commands from the robot command table and returns a result. Update robot command. Update an existing robot command in the database. Insert a new robot command into the database and again deletes a robot command from the database based on its ID. And this is the map.cs. Namespace named robot controller API. And this is the class of map. Properties of the map class: ID, column, rows, name, description, created date, modified date. And this is the method get or set. And this is the constructor in which parameterized all these are type of integer, but name, description are type of string, and created date, modified date is the type of date time. This initializes to their names, and this is the map in public, and this can be used to initialize properties if needed. Program.cs. It creates a web application builder using web application created builder arguments. It adds controllers to the services container using builder.services add controllers. It registers scoped instance of data access classes. It registers scoped instance of the data. iRobot command data access is registered with robot command repository. IMap data access is registered with map repository. It builds the application using builder.build. HTTP request pipeline configuration. It checks if the environment is development and adds a developer exception page if true. It adds HTTPS redirection and authorization middleware. It maps controllers to the application pipeline using app.mapcontrollers. Application execution, it runs the application using app.run. And the last one is robotcommand.cs. Again, using system namespace named robot controller API, public class named robot command, and this is the properties, and id name description is move command, created date, modified date. These all are commands. Robot command in the public. Id is the type of integer, name is the type of string, is move command is the type of bool, and these all are initialized with their names. Public robot command. Now we can see on terminal also. We will put here .NET run building. This is the local host where we can see output of this course. Localhost 5282, and we can follow this link and we can move on this page. Now you can see output on localhost 5282 /API/maps, and you can see output of ID1 and ID2. This is the map 1 and this is the map 2, and we can change their API/maps into robot commands, and this is the output ID 1 to up to 6. Left, up, down, right, turn, and the last one is stop. We will see output on Postman also. Now you can see output on Postman. First we will take get request, and it sends successfully with ID number these with status code 200 OK response. Then we can take ID number 24, and you can see this result with 17. It also sent successfully, and this is the post. We can take ID as 15, post, put false, true, and 16. With get, it sends successfully with 200 OK response. Again we can take ID 6, and this shows 404 that is not found, so we can take ID number 3, 4, and it matched with the command. Now we will move on post. So here ID number 5, 4 rows. Name, let us take down. Map added successfully. Input, we can take ID number 24. Name, sent. So you can see updated command successfully. Input, updated app map, and we can delete ID number 13. Deleted command successfully. And in maps we can also ID number take 10. This is successfully deleted. Thank you for watching this video.